Yeah, so I'm a park ranger in my work life for San Diego County, and I work out kind of near Verona Casino, if you've ever heard of that place. There's a wiggly road you take to get there. It's called Wildcat Canyon. So I work at 3 parks on that wiggly road. And I actually get to live at one of those parks, which is amazing. So I'm gonna surf that wave as long as I can. All right. Howdy, folks. I'm Kyle Icke. I'm from the San Diego Bonsai Club. And I am not a bonsai expert, but I hope to be able to convey to you my understanding of bonsai and hopefully some of my passion for it. And I hope to be able to maybe lure some of you to the dark side with me. Because you can be both, right? So I put together a little presentation to kind of show you kind of how I think about this, and I don't know. I hope you like it. So kind of goes something like this. Bonsai is like so mysterious and mystical and maybe intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. So I wanted to be able to garner some appreciation through demystification. So we've been around a while, but you know, really, we're essentially cave people with good technology and stuff. We still are, and so we have it within us. It's part of being human. We want to create stuff and capture and collect things, and we like to nurture things. You know, we like to manipulate things, and you know, manipulation has such a bad rap, but really, we like to mess with stuff with our hands, because that's kind of how we, well, at least a lot of us, that's how we experience the world. There's kinesthetic learners, you know, there's the visual learners, so hopefully you can get something from my little slides, and there's the audio learners, and so hopefully out in Zoom land and elsewhere you can hear my words and try to make sense of what I'm trying to say. And then kinesthetic, I brought some plants so that you guys could actually touch them and not be afraid of bonsais. That's what I'm hoping to achieve here. Anyhow, we have, like, you know, well, we love plants, and we have this sense of wonder. We love novelty. We have a reverence for things that are bigger and older than we are. It's just part of us, and we appreciate history so much so that we like to be part of it. We like to invent history. We like to make history, and we like to tell stories. We love telling stories, all kinds of stories. So much so that we even make stuff up. We even make up stories, and we love them all. And so bonsai is all of this. It's all of these things. It's the collecting. It's the love of plants. It's the nurturing. It's the telling the story. It's all of these things all together in an art form, and you just kind of access it as you will. So this is just really kind of the basic bare. This is what it is. So we go out in the landscape and we see the beautiful landscape and we love it, you know, but you know, we can't take it home with us when we wish we could. So nowadays we take a picture of it and, you know, we put it on Facebook or whatever. It's like, you know, I was here, you know, I got to see this, or you know, whatever. Or we love something so much, we make it as a screensaver on our computer and a little wallpaper. You know, we do that because we want to be part of that landscape. This is kind of how we experience it. Well, before wallpaper and computers and cameras and all that stuff, you know, there was just the memory and there was the story, but there was also the ambition and the passion to recreate it. So we did. You know, people started trying to recreate these landscapes, things that they saw in nature, and you know, it just started developing as an art form. So it's like bonsai is just one of them, but there's all kinds. There's like a whole bunch of different art forms that I don't even know the words for them, but has to do with seeing stones and Zen rock gardens and you know, creating like moon gardens and water tray gardens. And there's making like a little earth wall, you know, it's like with the plant sticking out of it. It's like all of this stuff. It's all part of the same thing, you know, which I think that you master gardeners also are tapped into this, because you are growing things in your yards and your fields and in public plantings. You're doing this. You're taking seeds, you're taking cuttings, and you're growing things. You're making landscapes in residences and businesses and all sorts of places, in schoolyards. You're doing all of this. This is just one aspect of what you guys already do. So you might see a tree out in nature. It's been facing the weather and all of what nature has to throw at it, and it's seen disease, and it's seen fire, and it's seen raging winds, and it's had broken branches, and it's had animals strip the bark off of it, and it's had, you know, it's gone through hailstorms and just unrelenting wind and dryness and snow and just all kinds of stuff. It's like, how could anything like that survive? But trees do, and then they're shaped by their lives just like we are. And so some of these trees have such unique shapes and characters after having withstood those conditions for so many years. And then when we happen upon them, we're like, oh, I want to take that home, but can't really, you know, but you can recreate it. So that's kind of how bonsai started, I think, you know. So I'm not going to be able to give you like the exact dates and, you know, the dynasty, the dynasty who was in control of China when this. It's like, I'm not a history guy, sorry, but I know what I like, and I kind of get it. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like you see it, you want to do it. So that's what it is. That's bonsai to me. So it's like, how do you do it? It's like, are there little magic seeds that you plant to make a little magic bonsai tree? Is that how it works? It's got to be magic. So there's lots of different styles of bonsai. So you know, depending on where the tree, this ancient tree is living, depending on the conditions, the soil, how rocky it was, the slope, the temperature extremes, the climate, all of these things that the tree has gone through is going to shape it. And so that has influenced the different bonsai styles. And so I found this really cool little chart, you know, shows the different styles. So you've got like the tree that's, you know, like straight up like a stick, and it's got like the branches like this, you know, they call that a formal upright. But, you know, then you've got a tree that looks more natural, and it's kind of like this, but it's still got the branches going like that. And, you know, that'd be like an informal upright. And And then you've got trees that look like they're spilling over the edge, and those would be like with a big bunch of branches up here, would be like a semi-cascade. And then the ones that are just like fully going over the edge like a waterfall, that would be a cascade. And then you've got some that are just like blasted in the wind, and they're just like, you know, all their branches, they try to grow a branch this way, but it just gets bent this way, and they're just like whipping like this in the wind all the time. You know, that's going to be like a windswept or a slant. You've seen like this, you've seen trees that aren't straight, you know, they're kind of like leaning. It's like, you hope they're like not over a public walkway, but if they're out on a mountainside, it's like, that's pretty groovy. And then you've got the typical tree that's, you know, it's just got the big canopy that spreads like that, and they call that broom style. And you see some that aren't just a single trunk, you know, they've got like maybe two trunks, they call that a twin trunk. And then sometimes there's a tree that maybe has fought for light, you know, growing underneath bigger trees for a long time, and then maybe branches from those bigger trees have fallen and have given it a little bit more opportunity to get some sunshine sandwiches, and it just stretches and cranes and tries to spread and grow and grab that meager bit of sunlight, and it just keeps getting taller, but it's not getting thicker, it's just getting taller. And then something happens to the surrounding trees, they get wiped out, and now it's standing alone, and it's this gaunt thing, and it's like, it has a beauty of its own, but it's very alien. So it's like an Italian supermodel, you know. She weighs like 95 pounds, you know, and she's very slender and gaunt. It's like no human being really looks like that, but she looks great on, you know, for designer clothes and to hang a dress on, you know. It's like that's a literati tree. Literati trees are like that. And then you have these trees that they made their living somehow in a little pocket of dirt on top of a boulder, and there was just enough moisture for those roots to just barely make it, and it grew, and it was searching for more dirt and more sustenance, and so it started snaking its little roots out over the rock, and fortunately it had some good water, and the roots found like the drip zone, and then it went down to the side of the rock, and then it found what it needed, and then you have these strong like snake roots covering the rock, and the tree is up on top. They call that root over rock. It's a style. Yeah, you see that kind of more in the jungle, right? You could imagine like a tree like growing over, you know, something, and you're whacking back the suckers and stuff, and like pulling all the stuff away, and you see like a scary Indiana Jones idol face. It's like, and you realize that this tree is covering an ancient temple. It's like, yeah, it's like it's a real thing, and it's a bonsai style. And then, you know, if you just have like so many little trees, and none of them are very big, and none of them are very thick, but you can plant them together in a group, you could make like a forest scene. And so that's a style too. They call it forest style. So this little chart kind of shows elevation-wise where you might find trees that look like this. There is a spot when you are driving up to Idlewild, and there is this corner, you know how the roads are when you're going up to Idlewild, they're like the mountain roads, you know, where you have to like really pay attention, you have to keep both hands on the wheel the whole time, right? It's like you're not going for the cup of coffee, no, you're not eating a little snack, it's like kind of like white knuckling it, you know, especially if there's a lot of traffic. But of course, you know, who can resist staring at a road cut when you're right by it, because it's like an x-ray into the earth. And then sticking out of this road cut at this one part where you get to see it for only like 3 seconds, there is a big manzanita, and it is like hanging on for dear life with its roots exposed because the dirt has fallen away, and it is like, it looks like an octopus grabbing onto the hillside, leaning out over the road, looking at you as you drive under it. It's really awesome. And it's like, of course, I would love to bring that home, but you can't. But you can recreate that at home with bonsai. So we've been talking about the trees and all this stuff, but big part of bonsai is the pots, because what bonsai really literally means is plant in a pot. And so that's a big part of bonsai. It's like it's you know, you're giving a home to the tree. And so, you know, what do you want that little home to look like? And is that home going to complement your tree? Is it going to detract from its foliage? Is it going to accentuate little berries that your tree might have later in the year? You know, there's lots of considerations for that. And that's all part of the art form. But it's nothing to get intimidated by. It's just something that you learn, and then you kind of know what you like and all that, you know? So I didn't want to scare you by showing all these pots and stuff. But there's lots of pots. And you can make your own pots. That's what I'm working on. Yeah. And so check this out. Same tree, different pots. See how it looks different? It's like you can dress up your tree or dress down a tree. In fact, this is kind of how it is. So, you know, at home, you know, you wear your grubbies, you know, and maybe you don't take a shower for 1 or 2 days if you're not going out down the hill to go into town, you know, and you just kind of like eat dinner at home and going out in the garden and working and stuff, and it gets really late, you know. And, you know, you don't really care, you know, that your hair is all messed up and stuff, you know, that's just the way it is. But when you go out, you're going to go somewhere, it's like, oh, you know, I got to go to the dance recital, or, you know, oh, I'm going to go meet some people down at the ball game, right? So you're going to wear some nice clothes, you know, you're going to clean up and do your hair and everything, and, you know, put a little cologne on and take a shower for sure. And, you know, you're going to make sure that you wear some nice shoes and stuff when you go out. You're going to look different than you did when you were like grubbing around in your garden. You know that. Well, it's the same way with trees. So trees at home, it's like, you know, they're comfortable and all that stuff, you know, they're good, you know, you see them, you like them, you know your trees. But when you take them to the bonsai show, they actually have shows for bonsai, kind of like dog shows. And people have called these plants like the show dogs of the plant world. And it's seriously like that. So it's like, you know, you make sure the tree's totally groomed, and I'm not kidding. People pull them out of the pots and put them in a different pot just for the show. They take the topsoil off and they put moss that they've grown in a whole separate area and put it on top just for a day or two, you know, to dress it up, you know. And then, you know, oh, and they oil the pots. They like clean them up and oil them. I'm not kidding. But, you know, that's kind of like, you know, you got your, you know, you got your car and you're on the dusty road and everything, you know, but it's like, oh, if you're going to go into town, you wash it. And it's like, you know, if you're really fancy, you're going to like put the tire dressing on it and stuff, you know, makes them all look black and shiny like they're brand new. It's the same deal. It's the oiling the pots. So people totally do that. So, you know, when these, you know, these trees go into a show, they're just like, you know, it's amazing. But, you know, and that's kind of intimidating. I don't put my trees in shows. But, I like my trees, and so that's good enough for me, right? And if you want to be really into it, you can have the shows. But it's like, I appreciate the shows. I help run the shows for my club, but I haven't put my trees in shows. I like them just how they are. And so I brought some of them to show you tonight, and we'll get to meet and greet them later. So these are some of the tools of the trade that you know so well, being master gardeners and all. You know, you're working on all kinds of plants. You're working on succulents. You're working on shrubs. You're working on subtropical stuff. You're working on conifers, all kinds of different trees, deciduous stuff. You're doing all kinds of big trees, small things. You're doing different kinds of plantings. You know, all kinds of stuff about how to grow these things, where to grow them, how, you know, where not to grow them, what they need at what time of year, what they need to eat, how their watering regime. You've got all that down because you're master gardeners. And so you're very familiar with all these cutting tools, digging tools, pruning tools, and the different saws and all that stuff. Well, bonsais are just trees, they're just little. So have the same kind of tools, but they're just little and they're hand tools. So this is what a tool roll might look like, and this is kind of a better picture. So let's see, I guess what would that be from left to right? From left to right, you've got some gin pliers, and so gin pliers are for the gin pliers. They're for twisting wire. So when you have a little tree in a little pot and a cat walks on your bonsai bench and flips their tail, sometimes it could knock your tree right out of the pot, especially if you just repotted it, right? So what bonsai people do is they have these special pots that have like a couple extra holes instead of just one drainage hole. They usually have like a couple little teeny holes, and we slip wires through them so that the wires hang on to the bottom of the pot and they kind of stick up through the dirt. And then you twist the wires around the root ball, and that holds the plant in. So that way the wind doesn't blow it over, the cat doesn't knock it over, you know, and when the little kids come to visit, you know, and they get all excited, it doesn't knock them out of the pot. And it makes them easier to transport too. It makes them feel sturdy and secure because, you know, as you know, no plant likes to be like whipping and whapping around. It's like, that's why God made taproots, right? It's like, keep me still, thank you. I like the earth and I don't like to move around much, you know? That's the way it is with plants. So that's why we have the gin pliers. And the gin is talking about another aspect of bonsai. So the trees that you have, they're not going to be the 500-year-old ancient tree that's on the mountaintop getting blasted by the wind, and then maybe 50 winters ago, a branch cracked and the branch died off, but it's still there and it's bleached white. It's like, you're not going to have that on your little plant, but you can make that on your plant. So with these pliers, you can take those pliers, and I know this is going to sound horrible to you guys, but you take the pliers and you grip the branch that you want to do this to, and you crush the cambium, and then you strip it off, and then you're left with like the bone underneath, you know, just like a little hardwood, you know, for the plant. And then it starts to dry out, and then you can put lime sulfur on it and bleach it white and make it look like, you know, a broken branch from 50 winters ago on your bonsai. That's what gin pliers are for. The next tool, they're like this. It's called a branch splitter. I know this is going to sound horrible. It's like instruments of torture. Okay, so this is for when you want to bend a branch. When you want that tree to look like it's been windswept and just been tortured by the wind, and it's really just like, so what are we going to do today? Well, let me show you. So it's like you grab this thing and you get these branch splitters, and you put it like this, like right in the middle of the branch, and you start cutting it, you start cracking it, and you make a split, and then you can bend the branch easier that way without busting it off. And then you can wire it, you can put some raffia on it, and maybe some tape, and you can like make it so that it can heal in that position that you put it. It's pretty extreme stuff. I'm just saying. Then next, we've got the convex cutters. Well, it's like they're kind of like a pair of dikes. So it's like, you know, in your toolbox, you know, you've got the needle nose pliers, right? You know, and then they've got the little wire cutter things, and then you've got the dikes, and the dikes are like a pair of needle nose without the needle nose on them, and it's just got the wire cutter. And so these are kind of like wire cutters, except instead of like this, they're made to cut like this angle. And so we use those to cut branches. We call them branch cutters. And so you can cut a branch very precisely with that, and you can cut a bigger branch than you can with a pair of scissors. The next tool is kind of in the middle. It has a top that's kind of like, it's like two bowl halves that come together, and it's called a concave cutter. And so what that is for, when you cut a branch and you're cutting a tree, you know you have to go for the collar, right? So you cut and leave the collar there so that the tree can heal with the donut, right? And you've got the little thing sticking out, and it's like, okay, well, that's where I pruned it. Well, on a bonsai, you kind of don't want to have that little shoulder ridge thing sometimes. So if you don't want to have that shoulder ridge, then we do kind of a cheat. And so we take this concave cutter, and it kind of reaches into the trunk just a little bit, and it cuts kind of like a little a divot out along with the branch, and it kind of leaves like a little divot there. And so your tree doesn't lose moisture. We've got this stuff called cut paste, but you know what works really well is just plumbing putty from Home Depot. It's cheap too. Black Swan, I recommend it. Just get a lump of that and just cram it on there, and that will keep the tree from drying out in that spot while it heals. And then it'll just fall off, and you'll see that the tree will, you know, it'll do the donut thing, but instead of making like a developed donut that will finally close in on itself, the healing process, it kind of becomes kind of a flush healing. So if you don't want to have like a big donut scar on the side of your little tree, then you use one of those cutters and you remove the branch that way. Let's see, the next tool is just another one of those convex cutters. And then we've got the scissors. So the scissors there, those are just, you know, for small little twigs, leaves, and stuff like that. You know, that's what we use. It's you basically give your tree a haircut, but because you're managing the growth of this tree. Every so many years, if you notice that you're not getting good drainage, you know, you can remove your tree from the pot and you can cut some of the roots off. You can cut some of the roots off. You don't have to bare root it like a rose or anything, but, you know, leave like some dirt and then just cut some of those roots off, and then put it back in the pot, rewire it, put some more dirt in, and then the plant will be like, oh, okay, I need to grow some more roots. And so it sometimes gives it an impetus to start growing things again. You know, if it was just kind of sleeping and kind of get sluggish, it's like that will sometimes rejuvenate it. You know, it's just the way plants are. You know more about that than I do. Another really good tool is the turntable. So you see that round thing right there? That's a turntable. Ashley made that. That's why it's kind of warped and stuff, but it works. And anyhow, that way you can put your tree on it and you can turn it, you know, so you can see it from different profiles. It's sort of like the barber chair. You know, the barber chair, you sit in the barber chair, you know, or you go to the salon, you know, and they pump it up, get it to the right height and everything. Same deal. And then, you know, they spin you around. It's like, oh, let's look at this. And you're like trying to catch a glimpse in the mirror, you know, but the person that's in charge with the scissors, it's like they're the ones that've got to see it. So they're like looking around. And so they don't have to like walk around to the front of you, which they sometimes do, but so they don't have to. They can just spin you around real easy. It's the same thing with the tree. So that way, when you give your tree a haircut, you can see where you missed a spot, you know. You can kind of get different vantage points without having to get up and go around. Then we have wire. So I don't know, it sounds like torture, doesn't it? But if you want the branch to be bent in a certain way, then you can manipulate the tree to grow in that way, and you can convince it to keep that pattern by wiring it. And so you wire it, and then it's like, okay, I get it. It's like, I'll just grow this way. And then later you take the wire off and it's bent that way. So that way you can achieve a look, whatever look you're going for with your tree, because it's kind of a, you know, it's a relationship. You know, you're trying to keep the tree alive, but you also want it to look a certain way because you're an artiste, right? And then another really good tool is the chopstick. So when you go and eat Chinese food, don't ever throw away your chopsticks, take them home with you, you know, and then you use them for your bonsai. So remember I was saying to you, you know, people would, you know, you take the tree out and you trim the roots, and you put it back in and put some dirt in. With the chopsticks, you can like kind of wiggle them around, and you can force the dirt to go down in between all the roots that you left. And that way you can chase out all of the air pockets so that the tree's roots don't have to like try to grow through an air pocket, because they don't like that, you know that. You know, so if you can get the dirt to come in contact with what roots are left in the root ball, that's much better for the tree. So that's what the chopsticks are for. But the most important tool in your toolbox, in your tool roll, in your little wagon cart, in your tool shed, the most important tool is patience. Because this is a long game, folks. So there's some cheats, you know, because we don't live as long as trees do. So there's some cheats, and I'll talk to you about those. But it's patience. It's like you have to. It's really like it's a 4D puzzle. So you know, two-dimensional puzzles like a jigsaw puzzle, right? You know, you're doing the little pieces, you know, matching up the shades and this and that. It's like you got the pattern. You look at the box. It's like, where is that? I know that parrot is somewhere, you know, here's the tail of the parrot, yay! You know, so it's like a 2D. The 3D puzzle would be like, you know, like if you had like be like a little sculpture, like Legos. Legos are a 3D puzzle, you know. Maybe you have a set of instructions, maybe you're making it up on the fly, but you're making a 3-dimensional kind of a sculpture. Bonsais are 4D because they're 3-dimensional, they're alive, and there's an element of time involved. So you guys understand about, you know, don't plant a tree right next to your wall of your house. You know that because, you know, you may not be alive to see it, but in 50 years' time, the tree's going to be way taller than your house, and it's going to start busting the sidewalk, and it's going to start jacking up the walls, you know, and the people in the future are going to be cursing you. It's like, what were they thinking? Well, the person that plants the tree right next to the house wasn't using 4D thinking. So you have to think, okay, this is not going to be this size forever, it's going to grow. So you think about that when you're pruning these branches, how you want the tree to look. So you're setting it up, and you're cutting things in a way that are going to make a desired effect in years of time to come. So it's kind of a satisfying kind of a thing like that. Kind of like, you know, a puzzle is, but also frustrating too, especially if you cut the wrong branch, which we've all done. So I want to kind of tell you like how we really do this. So the pruning part. There's some heavy pruning that's done. There's root pruning that's done. And you're going to be using, you know, the tools I showed you. You're going to be given the plant a haircut from time to time. You know what it's really like? Bonsais are like living paintings. Imagine that you make a painting, right? And the thing is the painting on its own just kind of starts doing weird stuff. And so it's like, oh, I don't want that line to be like that. So you have to take that line out. You have to kind of erase it. And it's like, oh, well, you know, I kind of want that line to be more accentuated, but it keeps fading on me. So I have to redraw that line. It's like if you could imagine a painting kind of giving you a hard time because it wants to be a certain way, and maybe you want it to be a different way, you know, it's like that's the way bonsais are. You don't just like make the bonsai and ta-da, it's done forever. It's not like that. It's a constant thing. It's like the show dog, right? It's like you gotta brush them out, gotta feed them the right food, gotta take them for a walk, gotta carry the doggy bags with you. It's like all that stuff. It's like you gotta care for them. And one of the big reasons is because their whole world is that little pot that you put them in. They don't have they don't have like 10 cubic feet to spread out their little root hairs so that they can catch every little drop of water from last winter, you know, and then supplemented with your little bit of water that you give it on the sprinkler and put a little mulch around it and make it live. It's like, these aren't that way. It's like you have to water them like almost every day or else they're gonna die. And if you, depending on your soil mix and stuff, if you need a lot of drainage, then you really have to water them every day. I live out, like I told you, I live out near Verona, so it's like way out there. It gets cold out there, it gets hot, really hot. So I use, don't tell my bonsai people, I use cactus mix. I do. I use cactus mix for my plants because it holds the water better. There's a long tradition of basically using practically inorganic materials, just like sand and rock and like some clay, and then having that be your bonsai soil, and then you kind of like, I don't know, you like make special fish emulsion from your hand-fed koi that you raise in your pond so that you can do the mystical, magical fertilizing. It's like, really? No. I live out there in East County. Cactus mix. Thank you very much. All right. And it's like triple 15 if you wanted to go sparingly, you know, it's like, it works. And it's like, if you want to kind of like build the soil and kind of be friends to the mycorrhizal environment in your pot, then, you know, go organic and maybe like 4-4-4. That works good if you can find it. So anyways, that's kind of nuts and bolts of pruning. We talked about the donut thing and all that stuff. It's like, well, that's kind of how it is. So I just say it's the same thing, it's just small. Wiring. So wiring is essentially you wanting the branch to bend a certain way and convincing the plant to grow in that direction. And you have to put the wire on and you have to monitor it because it's a living thing. If you're feeding it right and you're giving it what it needs, it's going to grow. And if it grows, it's going to start to bind against that wire and the wire is going to start cutting in. And you know yourself that trees will grow around stuff. They do that, you know? So it's like, you don't want that to happen with your trees because if they do, then when you finally take that wire off, you're going to have like these serpentine scars around your branches and it's not going to look good. So you want to like monitor the growth of your tree. And so when it starts to, you know, do a growth spurt, you kind of like check a wire, you know, you wind it back a little bit. And if it looks like it's starting to make a dimple in there, take the wire off and then, you know, see what the branch is doing. If it's, you know, if it just kind of like goes up a little bit, then you can rewire this a little bit. But if it's like, you know, it's like you got to redo it, you know, or you got to figure out another way. So I have this pine tree at my house. I couldn't bring it because it's in traction. I'll explain. I got bonsai wire and I got some fish tank hose and I put the wire through the fish tank hose and I bent the fish tank hose and the wire around the branch so that it wouldn't like cut into the branch. And then I got the wire and I wrapped it around some cobbles, some rocks, some cobbles, heavy ones. And I just bent the branch down so the branches are bent like this. So some of the rocks are just about touching the ground. And so it's like I'm bending the branches down to simulate that the tree was in an environment and in the winter, the boughs became heavy with snow. See, I'm telling a story. Once upon a time, there was this pine tree in the mountains and it had to survive the heavy winters, right? So when I take those wires off, it's like the tree's gonna have like the bent branches. Because you know, a lot of stuff just wants to grow up like this. You know, it's like, no. We want you to look old, not like you're like 3 years old. We want you to look 300 years old. So that's bonsai. So you just take the wire and you just carefully, you kind of pre-bend the branch. And you just secure the wire to a sturdy part of the tree or the trunk, or maybe you wire 2 branches at a time, which is preferred. And then you use that as a base. a secure point, and then you bend the branch and you wrap the wire, and you bend as you go, and then when you let go, it should not pop back up where it was. And if it does, you just kind of bend it, because wire bends and it holds the shape, and then that will usually hold the shape of your branch. And if it doesn't, then you put more wire on there and get it going like that. And if that still doesn't do it, then you can get a little piece of wire, a little piece of fish tank hose, and you can like bend it and like wire it to something, side of the pot, or a nail in the bench, or whatever, or a rock hanging. Looks kind of cool actually. Traction. So I call that how to train your dragon. So it just kind of looks like that. It's not mysterious, it's not mystical, it's mechanical. And it's like, you guys get that. It's like, there's lots of things that you deal with. There's, you have to do tree supports when you plant a tree. You're putting in tree stakes, and then you're putting in the, I guess, what would you call it these days? Everybody's doing like tree straps. So it's like a strap, it's like secured on the post, and it's like not down low, but kind of up high-ish. It kind of goes around the tree. You want the tree to be able to bend and sway in the wind so that it can get strong, but you don't want it to blow over with its roots sticking out, right? So it's just long enough for it to be able to get in contact with the ground, and then you take those supports and stuff off. You take it off and let the tree fend for itself. And that's kind of how the wiring is. It's like you just do it for a while, and then the tree, maintains. And then you just kind of watch it and see if it needs more. And then, of course, there's pot selection. So remember I was telling you about the shows and all that stuff? Well, you don't have to put your tree into a show, but, a black nursery canister made of plastic, a tree doesn't deserve that. I mean, it deserves to have something nice. So, put it in a nice pot. And so there's lots of different kinds of pots that you can put it in, depending on your taste or what kind of plant it is, what you want to do, what you're trying to achieve, so it's just kind of like that. So I would say that's bonsai. I call it using your talent and creativity to work with familiar yet alien creatures that live on a different time scale to tell a story and create a shared reality. All right. So thanks very much, folks. I would love to open the floor to as many questions as you would like to ask, as much time permits. I don't know what time the crook comes out and you got to kick me off stage, but please ask away.
I have a question. How's the wire? Does it matter
Yes.
if it's copper? Does it matter if it's material the wire is?
Doesn't matter. Copper is it's the artsy one. So copper can be like annealed in a way to be very hard, and it can hold a lot of force with very thin material, and it looks really cool, especially on conifers and stuff. Blends in with the branches. It's beautiful stuff, but it's also super expensive. I mean, crackheads don't gut houses and go to the recycling center for nothing. Stuff's expensive. So what everybody I know, we all use aluminum wire. It's cheap, it's available, it works, and it looks pretty good. Yeah, but you can use. You know what I've seen? I've seen people use multiple strands of telephone wire. I've seen people use all kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter, It's just your preference, your taste, and what you can afford. Yes. Thank you for asking that. Thank you. Is bonsai indoor or outdoor? So I'm going to say, as a general rule, bonsais are outside things. For the most part, bonsais are trees. They're real trees, and real trees live outside in the real sun with the real air blowing on their real leaves, and they need that. They don't do well inside. You can bring them in as a little guest, sit on the table for a dinner party or something, but the next day they really need to go out so they can get the sunshine sandwiches, because, you know, your little 14-watt equivalent of a 60-watt bulb is not going to feed them what they need. They need that. And even a sunny window isn't going to do it. However, there are plants that are able to live inside, you know, like scheffleras and stuff like that. And those can be made into bonsais too. So you can really make anything into a bonsai, whatever you want. But for the most part, bonsais are real outdoor trees, and they need to live outside. And in fact, you know, they're going to be in areas where that are going to be able to take watering often. So it's usually going to be some kind of a bench outside, away from the edge of your house a little bit, and they're going to be on gravel or mulch, you know, because you're not going to want to walk in mud every 2 days to water your plants, you know. So the gravel takes the, you know, and anyhow, that's kind of how it is. They have to live outside. They need to be watered. You need to watch them. Yes. How old are the plants when you start to manipulate them? Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. In the olden days, there's a tradition called yamadori, where people would go out into the mountains with a big old backpack and a shovel, and they would see a really cool 500-year-old juniper, and they would dig it up, and they would put it in their backpack and bring it back home and try to nurse it back to health again after having cut its 500 years of roots off, and then grow it into a pot. And then you'd have this really cool, really old tree in your courtyard. Be like, wow! Well, that's one way of doing it. Nowadays, our tradition of yamadori extends to the wild wilderness of Home Depot, you know, or Anderson's, you know, some other a garden shop that's got some trees. To answer your question really is like, how much time have you got? So, you know, the way plants are is they live on a different time scale than us. So, you know, if you start off with a pencil, you know, you're going to be like, I'm not going to live long enough for this thing to get thick. So there's cheats. You can start with a bigger plant. So you can start with something that's like 10 years old. You can get the pencil and you can put it in the ground. And it's like a time machine. It's like the plant starts to grow, it shoots up, it gets like 10 feet tall, it gets to be like 3 inches around, you know? And then one day you can come along with some friends and chainsaw, and you can whack off, you know, the top 7 feet of it. And then you can dig and you can pull out the big root ball, you know, put it in a big old, like a wine barrel. And then subsequent years, you can look at the little suckers that grow, and you can train those to become branches. And you take this thing out of the wine barrel every couple of years, and you whack off some of the roots, and you kind of like minimize it, keep minimizing it, and you put it into a smaller container until finally you end up with something that looks like that. You end up with a trunk that's a couple inches in diameter, but it's in a pot that's only this big. And it's got like a canopy that's only this big. It's that 4D puzzle thing. So you started off with something, you accelerated its growth by giving it optimum you know, living conditions in the ground, but then you intercepted it and you captured it and you collected it and you put it into a pot and you manipulated it, and you have created a tree that now looks like it's quite old. And in fact, by this time, it's probably 15 years old, and you've got it in a little pot. So that's kind of how it works. So you can start off with something. Some people grow these things from seeds. I don't have the patience to do that. So I go for bigger plants. I do. So I have mama elm, Chinese elm, and I have baby Chinese elm. And then I've got 2 stone pines, one that I have been training as a bonsai, and one that is just, you know, the little wild Christmas tree from a couple Christmases ago from Home Depot that hasn't come into training yet. And then I have a little juniper there that I got from the raffle table at the Bonsai Club, because we do a raffle too. And anyhow, I just thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna give this a shot. But it was all like all this, you know? And so I put a bunch of wire on it, and I bent the branches down like this, and I put it in a pot that we call a drum pot. It's kind of my favorite style of pot. It's one of my favorites. It's like, it's round like a drum, and then it's got these little bumps on it, in like a regular spaced little bumps, and they, you know, it's kind of decorated. You'll see when you come up and meet and greet it, but it's a little tiny drum pot. I put it in there. And, anyhow, that's what I got up here for you to see. But at home, I've got other things. I have a little teeny car, and it's like, you know, I couldn't bring my whole collection. I really would love to have. I'm like, y'all come on out, you know, and I'll show you. But anyhow, I'll show you everything I got out there. I have some pictures I can show you. I wonder if the Zoom people can see the pictures. Let's see. Well, this is a juniper that I have. I don't have a screen to see what the Zoom people can see.
Yeah, the Zoom people
can kind of see that.
There you go.
Yeah. That's good.
I'll show you guys later. Not too much later.
Are there any more questions? Does the Bonsai Club have field trips to the yards?
No, that's a great idea. We don't have field trips. The Bonsai Club does not have field trips to the members' yards, but I think it's a great idea. Right? I know, like all you guys. I think that'd be pretty fun. Yes, so where do we meet? We meet at Balboa Park. I guess it's called the Prado Room 101. It's kind of across from the Natural History Museum's side door and the Prado Theater that has that really cool facade that everyone stands there and takes pictures, and sometimes you see like little dancers running in and out. It's like right there. It's like there's a courtyard, and you kind of go down past the little bathrooms, and then it's the big room 101. That's where we have our meetings. We do it once a month. It's usually like the second Saturday or something, unless we get kicked out by another one of the clubs, because there's other plant clubs. That. And then if they have like a show or a sale or something, then they get dibs on the room and they kick us out. So we got to go somewhere else. Yeah, it's on Sunday. It's on Sunday, and it's during the daytime. Starts at about 8 and goes till about 1. And so we're like a big education club. We've got wonderful, wonderful education people. Big Bill Graham, he's like in charge of education, and he's got all kinds of people that come. And I try to get speakers. That's like one of my jobs, to try to get speakers. But anyhow, it's kind of tough. But people like to come, so sometimes we have speakers from far away, and sometimes we have speakers from our own ranks that, you know, will do a presentation on, you know, how to do stuff. And so we have like a lot of new members, and you know, a lot of people are coming in for the first time. It's kind of like, so, you know, what do I do? And so we have like really basic stuff. We have beginners classes, and then we have presentations on like how to repot a tree, you know, something real basic, you know, how to wire a tree. So next month we're going to be doing how to wire a tree, and we got kicked out of room 101, so we're going to be in the War Memorial Building. But we're going to be doing how to wire junipers, I think. And this is a really cool thing that I want to tell you guys about. So you know how they say timing is everything? Well, it really is, especially when your whole world is only this big. Timing is everything with these plants. So you need to kind of know when to do stuff, or maybe more importantly, when not to do something. So I've struggled with that for a long time, but just last month, some of the members revealed that it's like, hey, we came up with the bonsai calendar. And like, I'm like envisioning, you know, is that kind of like the Coronado Fireman's calendar, you know, the bonsai, you're like, oh, no, it's not. It's actually, you know, at this month, you know, this species, you do this and this and this. And so it's going to become an online resource. They're like revamping it, but it's going to be on our website really soon. So you guys will be able to look at that. And you'll look at it and go, oh, well, yeah, of course. And then you might look at some of that stuff and go, oh, no, we would never do that to an elm at that time of year. You know, in the ground, it's probably true, but in the pot, it's kind of different. So it's kind of tweaked in that respect. So it's kind of a really good resource, this bonsai calendar. I'm looking forward to perusing it myself so that I don't do the wrong thing to the wrong plant at the wrong time. Now, do I have any other questions? It's going to be, see that green piece of paper right there? Grab that. It's on that.
San Diego Bonsai Club.com.
Yep, it's real easy. Just even Google it, San Diego Bonsai Club, you'll find it. Yeah. It's really easy to find.
All right, we're going to transition away from the Zoom.
Okie dokie.
We're going to say goodbye to our Zoomies.
All right, Zoom people, thank you very much.